On June 16, 2026, a hacking crew posted a claim online. They said they had walked out of Madison Square Garden's network with 26 million customer records, not encrypted, just sitting there. The class action that followed alleges something worse: that the stolen set included biometric data tied to threat assessments. Think about who ends up in that database. Employees, concert goers, people who bought one ticket, one time. None of them signed up for this. And nothing stood between them and the attacker except a network perimeter that already failed. Here's the thing that would have made all 26 million records worthless. Encryption is not a security feature. Stop thinking of it that way. Look at every other control you have: firewalls, multi-factor authentication, access policies, detection tools. They all share one assumption: the attacker is still outside. Encryption makes the opposite assumption. It assumes they are already in. Then it asks one question. Now that you have the data, what is it actually worth to you? That is the whole idea. Encryption is the only control that keeps working after everything else has already failed. It is the difference between a breach and an incident. One of those ends careers. The other ends with a ticket you close on Friday. Here is the part most explainers get backwards. The cipher is the lock. The key is the secret. Modern algorithms are public. AES 256, ChaCha 20. Anyone can read exactly how they work. That is on purpose. It is called Kirchhoff's principle. So, where does the security actually live? Entirely in key management. Remember that, because it explains almost every headline you will ever read. When someone says, "the encryption failed," the encryption almost never failed. Somebody mishandled a key. They hard-coded it in a repo. They left it next to the data. They shipped it in the app. The math held. The humans did not. You will hear two words constantly: symmetric and asymmetric. Here's what separates them. Symmetric encryption uses one key both ways. Same key locks it. Same key opens it. AES is the one you will meet. It is fast. It does the heavy lifting on your actual data. Asymmetric encryption uses two keys. A public key locks. A private key unlocks. RSA and elliptic curve live here. They are slow, so nobody encrypts a whole hard drive with them. Instead, they do two jobs. They help both sides agree on a symmetric key, and they prove identity through digital signatures. Now here is why that split matters more than you think. Quantum computers threaten one side of that picture, not both. Shor's algorithm breaks RSA and elliptic curve. It does not break AES the same way. So when people say, "quantum kills encryption," they are being sloppy. Quantum kills how you exchange keys and prove identity. Hold that thought. We'll come back to it. Your data lives in 3 states. Each one needs a different answer. State 1, in transit, data moving across a network. TLS handles this. It is close to universal now. Call it mostly solved. State 2, at rest. Data sitting on a disk in a database inside a backup. Companies claim this one constantly. They deliver it unevenly. We will get to the receipts. State 3 is where it gets uncomfortable, in use. To actually process your data, something has to decrypt it into memory first. For that moment, it is plain text on hardware you do not own. That gap is the reason confidential computing exists. It is the reason researchers keep pushing homomorphic encryption. Nobody has fully closed it yet. If you take one thing from this video, take this. Transport encryption is not end-to-end encryption. They are not the same, and companies blur the line on purpose. Transport encryption means nobody between you and the provider can read your message. Sounds great. Now notice who that leaves out. The provider. They hold the key. They can read everything. End-to-end encryption means the provider cannot read it either. Only your device and their device hold the keys. That single word "end" is what every major privacy fight is actually about. Chat control. Apple versus the UK government. Client-side scanning proposals. Governments are not fighting about whether your traffic gets encrypted. They are fighting about whether somebody in the middle keeps a key. Breaches got more expensive again. IBM released the 2026 numbers on July 29th. The global average breach now costs $4.99 million. That is up 12% in a single year. If you work for a US company, the number is uglier. American organizations average 11.5 million. But the headline number is not the interesting part. Dig into the encryption findings. Only 37% of breached organizations encrypted sensitive data, both at rest and in transit. Only 34% could even see their own cryptographic assets. They did not know what they had encrypted. And more than half, 53%, had sensitive data sitting unencrypted when the attacker arrived. Read that again. The majority of companies that got breached had nothing protecting the data itself. Now here is the angle almost nobody covers, and it is the one that gets you taken seriously in an interview. Encryption is not just a technical control. It is a legal escape hatch. In most US states, the law says something remarkable. If attackers stole encrypted data, and they did not also steal the key, you do not have to notify anyone. They call it the encryption safe harbor. It is written into the statutes. Healthcare works the same way. HIP AA carries the identical provision at 45 CFR 164-402. Picture the scenario. Somebody loses a laptop full of patient records in an airport. If that disk was encrypted properly, watch what disappears. No patient notification letters, no investigation from the Office for Civil Rights, no listing on the public breach wall, no press coverage. Encryption turns a career-defining disaster into a form you file internally. That is the pitch you make to a CFO. Not, it is more secure. This, some data you cannot protect yourself. Somebody else carries it for you. Salt Typhoon proved that at national scale. Chinese state-linked operators lived inside AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen. Not for hours, for a long time. From there, they reached real-time unencrypted calls, text messages, metadata on who talked to whom. Now here's the part that should stop you cold. Reporting indicates they reached the lawful intercept systems. The wiretap access US law has mandated since 1994. Somebody built a back door for law enforcement. A foreign intelligence service walked through it. That is the argument against backdoors in one sentence. A backdoor cannot tell who is knocking. And look at how the US government responded. They did not tell people to trust the carriers. CISA and the FBI told Americans to move to end-to-end encrypted messaging apps. CISA's Jeff Green put it in 4 words. Encryption is your friend. When the agency that runs national cyber defense tells you to encrypt around your own phone network, listen. Attackers are stealing encrypted data they cannot read yet, on purpose. Copy it now, they store it. They wait for the machine that opens it. The strategy has a name. Harvest now, decrypt later. Everything you send today under RSA or elliptic curve is a time-delayed disclosure. So how far away is that machine? The estimates keep collapsing. In 2019, researchers calculated it would take about 20 million noisy qubits to break RSA 2048. By May 2025, the same lead researcher revised that. Under 1 million qubits, running for under a week, 20 times smaller, in 6 years. The Global Risk Institute's threat timeline now records experts putting the odds between 28 and 49% within a decade, highest they have ever recorded. Say this next part on camera because it makes you credible. That survey has commercial ties to companies selling quantum-safe products. Read it with that in mind. So here is a better data point. Scott Aronson spent 2 decades deflating quantum hype professionally. He now tells people to migrate. The hardware experts he trusts think a capable machine is plausible around 2029. When the field's loudest skeptic changes his mind, pay attention. And how many organizations have started planning for this? 26%. 3 out of 4 have not begun. Most encryption explainers on YouTube are already out of date. 4 things shifted this year. Start with the one in your pocket. On May 11th, 2026, Apple and Google shipped something people waited years for: end-to-end encrypted RCS between iPhone and Android in beta. It runs on iOS 26.5 and current Google Messages, built on the GSMA Universal Profile 3.0 spec, using the MLS protocol. Here is why that matters more than it sounds. WhatsApp encrypts inside WhatsApp, Signal inside Signal, iMessage inside iMessage. None of them encrypt a message to a different app. RCS with MLS does. That makes it the first large-scale messaging service with real end-to-end encryption across different vendors. Now the caveats, because you should get these right. It needs the right OS version on both phones. It needs your carrier to support it. And business messages, the ones from your bank or your airline, are not covered. The green bubble stopped being a privacy problem, quietly, and mostly without announcement. The US government just put a deadline on the encryption you use every day. On June 22nd, 2026, the White House issued Executive Order 14412, securing the nation against advanced cryptographic attacks. 2 days later, the Office of Management and Budget followed with Memo M2615. It accelerates federal migration. Under CNSA 2.0, new national security system purchases must be compliant by January 1st, 2027. And every remaining FIPS 1402 certificate moves to historical status on September 21st, 2026. Translate that into your career. Post-quantum migration is no longer a research topic. It is a procurement requirement with dates attached. Somebody has to do that work. That somebody could be you. Europe just re-legalized scanning private messages. Most people missed it. On July 9th, 2026, Chat Control 1.0 passed, the voluntary scanning regime. Look at how it passed. 314 members voted against it. Only 276 voted for it. The opposition won the room and still lost the vote. Blocking it needed an absolute majority of 361. So, suspicionless scanning of unencrypted private messages is legal again. It runs until 2028. The permanent version, the one people call Chat Control 2.0, has not passed yet. The 5th round of negotiations ended without agreement on June 29th. Talks restart in September 2026. That fight is still live. Watch it. A government secretly ordered a company to break its own encryption. That case is now public. In January 2025, the UK served Apple with a technical capability notice. The original order had worldwide scope. Every user, everywhere. Apple refused to build the access. Instead, it pulled advanced data protection for UK users entirely. Then the pressure came from Washington. The UK withdrew the global order and issued a narrower one, aimed at British residents. Apple filed a fresh complaint in July 2026. The Investigatory Powers Tribunal will hear it in public. Privacy International and Liberty are in the same proceedings. The court will argue it using assumed facts. Now sit with the strangest detail in this whole story. Under the Investigatory Powers Act, a company that receives one of these orders cannot legally confirm it exists. Not that they cannot discuss it, they cannot say it happened. Encryption is not magic. If you oversell it, people stop trusting you. So here is where it stops working. Metadata is not encrypted. Who you called, when, how often, from where. Salt Typhoon's biggest haul was metadata. The content was almost beside the point. Endpoints beat encryption every time. If someone owns your device, end-to-end encryption protects nothing. The message decrypts on your screen. That is the whole design. And that is exactly why client-side scanning proposals target the device. They do not need to break the math. Encrypted at rest is often theater. Full disk encryption protects a laptop somebody stole from a car. It does almost nothing against an attacker holding valid credentials on a running server. And that is how most breaches work now. They do not break in. They log in. Data in use is still plain text. Homomorphic encryption is moving toward production, but it costs serious performance. Confidential computing helps, but understand what it protects. It secures the environment, not the data itself. And one more. Ransomware moved past encryption anyway. 41% of attacks now involve public shaming and leak threats alongside the theft. Locking your files was never the real leverage. Exposing them is. 3 claims you will hear this year. Learn to answer all of them. RCS is already encrypted. Half true. Transport encryption was always there. End-to-end was not until May. That half-truth confused people for years. Now you can explain the difference in one sentence. We're encrypted. When a company says that, they usually mean TLS. Traffic in motion, nothing else. You have the receipt now. 37% encrypt both at rest and in transit. Ask which one they mean. Quantum is 20 years away. Ignore it. The timing debate is real. Smart people disagree, and that is fine. But it is the wrong question. Ask this instead. How long does your data need to stay secret? If the answer runs past 2035, your deadline already passed. Somebody may be storing it right now.